Hey, this is Gary.
This is Mike.
And Daniel. We're not professionals. We're just three addicts sharing our experiences, strength, and hope regarding recovery.
Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to other addicts and to practice these principles in our lives.
Welcome to another episode of the 12th Step Podcast. This is Mike.
And this is Gary.
And this is Daniel.
Good to be back.
Yes. We are back.
Are we?
In many different ways.
It's good to be back. We're going to respond to a couple of emails that we've responded to previously a couple of times.
Yep.
Okay, you got to tell the story.
Yes. Tell the story.
I'm going to leave that one hanging.
Nope. Just tell it.
You tell it. You tell it. This is your story, Daniel.
This is my story?
Yeah.
Yes. So, we apologize because we met back in May, recorded five
episodes.
5 great episodes that were all response to listener emails. We thought they were awesome and amazing.
Felt good about
them. We ended it. We went home, went our separate ways, and somehow I lost the SD card that had all of those recordings. So maybe one day they'll resurface. Maybe our higher powers, like, you guys just really sucked at those, so you got to do them again. Or it was just all my fault, and I own it because I lost them.
I'm going to go with the latter.
Because he put it in a little pocket in your pants that nobody actually uses or know what it's for.
The coin pocket that no one uses.
It is not an SD card pocket for anybody out there who wants to know.
It will disappear. It's like you put 2 socks in the dryer, only one comes out.
Anyway.
So there is an opportunity for lost episodes
to come forward.
Yeah. Sometime in the future.
For those of you that have been wanting episodes and wondering why we haven't put it out, I own it. It's me.
So Adam, since yours is the first we're going to reply to, when the second episode comes out of the first iteration of this episode comes together, hopefully the information we provide adds up. So let's go with this.
Let's see if let's see how much we've learned in the last couple months.
So this is from Adam. Hey guys, would love to hear your thoughts on black and white thinking and how it has affected your recovery. I've noticed with myself that I can have this all or nothing mentality when it comes to recovery. It's either good or bad, growing or staying stuck, or I'm a good person who battles this addiction, or I'm a horrible person. If you guys feel that this is a good topic to discuss, then by all means, please do. No biggie, but if not, if it's no biggie. Thank you, Adam. We do think it's a great topic to discuss.
It is a biggie, actually.
It's a monstrous biggie because black and white thinking in an addict brain is the world and universe we live on.
I think black and white thinking is one of the we'll say one of the most popular thinking errors or cognitive dissonance.
Mm-hmm.
That all or nothing thinking, black and white kind of. I know it's one of my favorites.
Absolutely. I don't think you can be a good addict without exercising some amount of black and white thinking.
Oh yeah,
it's impossible. I think so. It certainly falls in the top 5, maybe if not. I was going to say top 10, maybe even top 5 kind of thinking errors and that are critical for recovery.
I don't think I've ever talked to an addict, recovering or otherwise, that doesn't use black and white thinking. In fact, I don't think I've talked to a person on any serious level without seeing some level of it.
Right.
Regardless of what they're dealing with, I think that's something that I know that cognitive dissonance or thinking errors is something that we all deal with on some level.
Yes.
Everybody.
Yeah.
And so to be aware of it and to know of it, I think is a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, just to give a practical example, it's like Daniel saying, I didn't really lose this SD card or something like that.
I own it. I lost it.
Or that it wasn't my fault or some of those things, right?
I didn't know.
That's black and white thinking.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's something we have when we're younger.
Yeah.
That, most of us grow out of. But especially addicts, I think we lock into it pretty hard. Mm-hmm. I see it in my kids. I have seen it with people that I interact with, but it just seems like with addicts, it's really hard because it's like, oh man, like I have a sponsee that is really focused on all the negative things like his kids or spouse does, while always focused on the fact that he doesn't get credit for like doing the dishes or the small things. It's like, I know you've mentioned many times where you're like, when you made the bed and your wife is like, but you sleep in it. That's like a normal thing, and it's those black and white things that we get stuck in. And I know I used to get stuck in those quite a bit, where like if something bad happened, like it's like the sky was falling and everything was always bad. Where now it's more like something happens, like, okay, Gary says it all the time, what's the next right thing? Yeah. What's the next step forward? Instead of thinking the sky is falling and everything's horrible.
I love that example that you brought up. I'd conveniently forgotten that one, but in my own life, if you really want to see black and white thinking in practical sense, always get the perspective of somebody else, right? My wife that was a great spot. It was a great moment for me to think to myself, I made the bed. I've really done something that she's going to be thrilled. I mean, I'm demonstrating to her that I'm helping around the house and that I'm doing all these remarkable things, only for her to, stick a pin in my balloon by saying, well, yeah, because you sleep in it. You should make the bed. It only makes sense. That's the kind of thinking that we get caught up in, particularly as addicts. And so that was a great, fun, kind of an eye opener for me to think, well, yeah, look at me. I'm doing the dishes. Well, you're doing the dishes because you participated in dinner like everybody else. Yeah. There's nothing really special about it. It's not like you're really going above and beyond trying to help me in my world. Yeah. That's the crazy thinking that goes on there. So,
you know what else is interesting about black and white thinking? I was just kind of looking at how he describes it a little bit. It's good or bad. It's growing or staying stuck. I'm a good person who's battling this addiction, or I'm a horrible person. And I look at that and kind of smile to myself because, there have been examples of my life when I've used black and white thinking and I've used both extremes.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's like for the same situation, and I vacillate back and forth between the two.
Which side do I want to take?
Yeah. Do I want to be the innocent victim in this scenario, or am I going to be the bad guy? Am I, you know what I mean? And the very same situation as you'd get stuck in the thinking and think it over and over, and you'd play it out in your head like, oh no, I did nothing wrong. I'm completely innocent. I'm the victim.
I'm the victim here. Yeah.
Or no, I am the worst thing on the earth. I am a villain. I
can't think of anybody worse than.
Yeah. And have it be the exact same scenario. When I get tired of beating myself up with one side of it, I would switch to the other. But the reality of it is that, which is one of the reasons why, we don't deal in absolutes,
right?
That, there are variations, and the reality of it is that the truth is going to lie somewhere in the middle,
right? Yeah.
And people are complicated, and it's not that simple. And believe it or not, you're a people, so you're complicated, and you're not that simple. And you've got to think that, which is why you need some of that outside perspective to keep you grounded, and why you need to learn the techniques to challenge those thinking errors, because otherwise you'll drive yourself nuts.
It's a true story. And there really is no better in a lot of cases. It just is so helpful to get an outside perspective on something. My wife she's so good for that. She's so good for me in that regard, to think, here I am puffing myself up, thinking I'm doing so well and everything's so fantastic, only to hear her perspective saying, no, Mike, you're really just doing your part finally.
Mm-hmm.
You've neglected it for so long, and now all of a sudden you're actually doing your part. That's not something that there should be, accolades that come along with that. It's part of being a family. It's part of what we do.
No, the reverse is true too. Sometimes you can beat yourself up and say, oh, I don't do anything, blah, blah. It's like, no.
Yeah. There are things that you do.
You can't sell yourself short. I mean, it's just as big a problem to not admit when you're doing things right and good as it is to say you gotta.
Well, I think that's one of the components that I really enjoyed about the fourth step is not only are you listing all the negative things, but then it has you list all the positive things. So you see that you're not one side or the other. You're a mixture, a blend of all this. Something that I've moved away from, instead of being that, oh, I'm a good guy or a bad guy, is like, oh, I had X bad behavior today, or I had X good behavior. Focusing on the behaviors, these bad behaviors I can now fix, I can change. That doesn't make me a bad person. That just means I indulged in some bad behaviors that I can modify or fix.
Yeah.
Because when we get stuck in that, oh, I'm a good person or I'm a bad person, then that shame sinks in, and then we just kind of start going into that shame pit, and it makes it worse. I've even seen this with one of my daughters, where, she's like, "You just hate me. You think I'm the worst." I'm like, "I didn't say that." And she's like, "Well, you said that you hate me," and I'm like, "No, I said I hate this behavior." And I've really tried to focus on hate this behavior, because I do realize in the past I'd say, "Oh man, I hate that when you do that." Well, she internalized that as "I hate you,"
Yeah.
And so it's not surprising that, us as addicts later on have internalized some of those messages maybe our parents said in that fashion.
Absolutely.
And so now we've taken every time someone says, "I hate you," or "you suck," or like that we're internalizing that I'm a bad person, or I'm just stuck, or like he says, I'm a horrible person.
Do you know what else is kind of indicative of this kind of thinking too is a lot of times I think you're using only one metric to judge yourself by.
True.
In a lot of that thinking.
Yeah.
And you're minimizing, and you're using other thinking errors where it's like, oh, I'm going to pick out the worst thing, and I'm going to eliminate all of this other stuff and not consider it at all.
Yeah. Because it supports that negative thought.
Right. Because it supports the negative thought. But the reality of it is there's a lot of different, like the one that I'm thinking on the most here is where he says, growing or staying stuck. And it's like, okay, well, how are you measuring growing?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and
what
how
I mean?
are you measuring staying stuck?
Measuring getting stuck? I mean, I can, I don't know. There's a lot of ways, by what metrics are you measuring? Because you might not see growth in some areas, but there's probably things going on in others.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean? And if you don't see that or take that into account, then
I would think also the peril of that is that we make those comparisons not to some static standard, but to some other person.
Yeah.
Right? I'm looking at myself like my recovery is being stuck because I've compared myself to Gary, who's got all these remarkable things happening in his life or something like that. Does that make sense?
it does make sense.
And I think the danger of that is that when we make those kind of comparisons, it's unhealthy.
Well, and that's another thinking error.
No, it's really unhealthy. And another reason is because if you're comparing yourself to somebody else, okay, then that goalpost moves all the time.
That's exactly right.
Because, they're changing. And that's another problem with this kind of thinking, is because you're going to move the goalpost so that it's absolutely unattainable.
Yeah.
You'll never let yourself win.
That's right. If you're always making comparisons to somebody else, and you're not really seeing their whole picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they may be failing miserably in some other aspect of their life, and so it's really not a fair assessment. It's just not, and it's that kind of thinking really is damaging.
Yeah, I mean, to follow up with what you're saying is, you're only seeing a snapshot.
That's right.
Of that person's life only when you're around them. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know what things they're struggling with. You're just seeing kind of the best version of themselves they're putting out there, unless they're being raw and authentic with you. And then if that's what you're comparing yourself to, of course it's always going to seem unattainable, and you're going to feel like, man, I'm just crap compared to so-and-so.
I recently I mentor a lot of people. I talk to a lot of people. So I was recently talking to this kid, and he was feeling bad about life. He's just going through some stuff, and he was just a little bit down and kind of struggling with some things and things like that. And he just says, I just don't know that recovery is working, because I'm just, I'm just not really. And I said, are you serious? I said, you're applying all of these tools, and you're going through all of this really stressful, hard stuff, and the worst you got is meh. I said, you know what that would have looked like a year ago?
Let me put that in perspective.
There really would have been dumpster fires and the world. I said, you're handling things so much better.
Yeah.
You're missing. And it's all of this stuff that's helping you navigate this stuff.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, and the things that at least I've seen is some days it's little steps, some days it's bigger steps, sometimes it's a leap, but it's dynamic. It keeps shifting from day to day. But as long as you're moving forward, I mean, how many times did you? I remember so many phone calls. Like, one day we'll have a phone call and you're not gonna sigh, because almost every time, how you doing? And those don't happen anymore. But that's kind of like that. It eventually, with time and work and the tools, it does go away, and you stop doing the black and white thinking. Even now I could be like, I don't know what happened to that card. It just vanished. Blah blah. Yeah, but now I'm like, all right, I own it.
Vanished.
I own it.
There was a sign.
I lost it somehow. But that's what recovery brings. Instead of that black and white thinking, I never once went, man, I'm just the biggest idiot in the world. I'm this huge loser because I can't keep a stupid SD card in my pocket. It was just like, all right, we lost it. We got to redo these episodes.
It happens.
We got to take life on life's terms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, what a fantastic topic. A really fantastic topic. It's just it's made me think of my own recovery and my own path and my own experience, and how over the years how that is the longer recovery moves forward, the less likely I use some of those thinking errors, some of that nonsensical thinking. It's just nice to know that life is very complex. Every day seems to be a little more complex, and that it's not. Nothing's set in stone, right? Nothing is. Well, it has to be that, or it has to be this. There's nothing in between.
I think a lot of our language even predisposes us to that.
I think
you know
right.
what? I came home today, and my son asked me, he said, "Did you have a good day or a bad day?" And I thought,
I need to sort through that for a minute. I don't know.
That's very black and white. I got to think of it. I said, I can't. I said I had a half hour that was awful, and I said, but the rest of it was actually pretty good, and right now is pretty good,
Yeah.
So,
I think you're right. I think there's a lot of predisposition to that sort of stuff. We sort of think of the world as though it's got to be this or that, and there's nothing in between.
Yeah.
Well, see, today would have been a really, really easy day for me to say, "Oh, this was a terrible day," because I had an interaction with a customer. And
Didn't go well.
Well, ultimately, it resolved just fine, but it was very frustrating. But that could have very easily been the kind of a thing where I've had a terrible day. No, I had a rough half hour.
Yeah.
And it actually worked out really well.
Right.
Here's
a thought. I started off the day very stressed. I don't know why. It just didn't seem like it was going well. There were 5 or 6 things I needed to get resolved before I took off, and they weren't coming together beautifully. So when I headed to work, it was late. It was near noon, and I'd been at things for 3 or 4 hours there already. So as I'm driving down the road, I can feel the tension in my chest. I'm worked up. I'm frustrated. And I implemented a breathing technique that was taught to me through recovery on sort of resetting my body through breathing, through the inhaling through the nose and a sort of a slow exhale out of my mouth, which is a methodology that had been shown to me to reset my vagus nervous system and to do a few things like that. And so I was driving down the road, breathing, looking like an idiot, but I was sucking air through my nose and letting it out my mouth, and it calmed me down, which is a technique that I'd been taught, and it worked. So I guess the question has to be a couple of things as I think about this black and white thinking. Did I have a good day or did I have a bad day? I had a bad day. It started off to be a bad day because of the things that were not going well in my life, and yet I had a great moment of recovery that just simply by implementing a tool that I had learned through recovery that I reached deep in my tool bag for and said, look, I know this helps and this can help me reset myself. And it did, which translated into really a pretty good day. And I count that really as a good day, because anytime I can use a recovery tool that helps me in my recovery and overcome my addictions and things like that, that would have been a very natural moment for me to act out.
Yeah.
It wasn't but 7 years ago that would have been, I know where that would have ended up. So,
for sure.
So the point being is that, implementing black and white thinking, I would be thinking that in terms of, well, I either had a bad day or that moment I just had a good day without the bad side of it. The reality of it is that I had a blended day of good and bad experiences, and I think that's life. I think that's the way it goes.
It's an amalgamation of good and bad stuff that happens throughout the day.
That's right.
Another tool, your breathing thing, it can come up whether you're feeling tension, trauma, or whatever. Something that I've learned is the butterfly. It's where you cross your hands and you tap your chest. That stimulates something very similar to EMDR. You do the breathing through it, and it will calm your nervous system down.
Fantastic.
It's an amazing tool.
That's remarkable things.
You just can't do it while you're driving,
I stayed with my breathing only instead of tapping my chest. But the point being is that that it helped.
Yeah, it does.
It helped.
It's amazing. I've done it when I've been anxious. I've done it when I've been stressed, when I've been really frustrated, and it calms me down.
Yeah.
Where normally, in the past with the addiction, I'd go to that.
Mm-hmm.
That would zero me out.
Right.
And then I could go from there. This does it even better and faster.
That's remarkable.
And with no negative
consequences.
Yeah.
I think it's fascinating that oftentimes we discount these things as being kind of hokey. Mm-hmm. Like, look, I remember the counselor that gave this to me. So I had one of the counselors that we've been working with sent us to a therapist down the road, and I thought she was a little bizarre. She was a little strange, kind of off-putting to me. But she walked me through and told me about some of the things that this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to work this. And it became I worked with it for a month or two, but I found it to be very, very helpful. Mm. So those are the kinds of things I think that recovery provides. Really, just some really amazing tools. So
yeah. So I think with a little bit of practice, you can recognize that. Well, there's a lot of black and white thinking, and I'm predisposed to do it.
Yeah.
And maybe start, taking life on life's terms and say, what am I going to make of today?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting even watching TV or movies where it's like, I'll be sitting there like, well, that's some black and white thinking there.
I know, right?
Yeah. Anytime you can watch an episode resolve itself in 30 minutes, there's some black and white thinking going on.
But, one thing I'd also suggest to Adam is, be a little accepting of yourself and show some humility towards yourself, because you're still going through your recovery. There are going to be some bad moments. There's going to be some rough moments. Maybe if you are finding yourself stuck, instead of getting upset at yourself, ask yourself why. Why are you stuck? What are things you can change to get yourself unstuck and move forward, instead of beating yourself up? And if you're feeling like a horrible person, maybe reach out and talk. There was a number of times, especially after the divorce, where I was feeling that way, and I would talk to someone and they would be like, "You realize you're actually doing a lot better than you were before."
Yeah.
Or there are so many things different in your life right now than they were beforehand. Mm-hmm. And and that really helped me kind of refocus and like, wow, okay, I'm thinking I'm way down here in the negative, but I'm actually more in the positive.
Yeah. What do you mean by stuck exactly?
Yeah, because more often than not, I really wasn't stuck like I thought I was, or I wasn't being a horrible person like I was. It was just I needed someone's perspective, like you mentioned before, to kind of get me out of my own negative perception of myself or my situation.
The interesting things about recovery that I've always found too is that as these issues come up, we find ourselves finally progressed far enough along that we can actually take the next step. We can actually do something in our behalf for ourselves. We're finally to a place where we can actually effectuate a positive change. Recovery has been just that way. It's at the point in time I arrive in that place where I need this tool, the tool is there because recovery has provided it.
Yeah.
So nothing happens to us. I don't think anything happens to us before we're ready for that. I just don't think that's the case. And I think as long as we keep working our recovery, we'll arrive to make those decisions and be dealing with those heavy things with at least a tool bag of being able to make those decisions. So
yeah, I agree.
It's been good. Well, with that, I think we're probably done with this episode. Thank you, Adam, for writing and reaching out. We appreciate it. We apologize it's taking us so long to respond.
I am very sorry for losing your episode.
But it's still a great topic, and it's always a good topic to discuss because it's a big part of recovery. With that, this is Mike saying, do the work necessary to find the peace that recovery can bring.
And this is Gary saying, do the next right thing.
And this is Daniel saying, find the humility in your recovery, even after you've lost SD cards.
Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you like this episode, please give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find us.
As a fellowship of recovering addicts, Sex Addicts Anonymous offers a message of hope to anyone who suffers from sex addiction. Check out saa-recovery.org.